Russell Hancock is President and Chief Executive Officer of Joint Venture Silicon Valley, a position he has held since 2003. In these roles, Dr. Hancock is best described variously as a civic leader, community gatherer, institution builder, civic entrepreneur, social scientist, and outspoken advocate for regionalism. Since taking the helm, he has grown the size of the organization tenfold, assembled a potent board filled with mayors, CEOs, and university presidents, built strategic partnerships, recruited a highly talented staff, founded the Institute for Regional Studies, of which he is president, and launched initiatives that are delivering measurable results to the region. Russell is also the founder of the annual State of the Valley Conference, a town hall meeting attracting more than 1,500 leaders for a day spent in dialogue and discussion about the Valley's challenges and opportunities. The conference features the release of the Silicon Valley Index, a document now receiving national and international attention. Founded in 1993, Joint Venture Silicon Valley is a think tank that catalyzes action by spotlighting issues and by convening the region's leaders for collaborative action to equitably benefit the entire community. The nonprofit organization, created and funded by stakeholders from business, government, academia, labor, and nonprofits, provides research analysis and a neutral platform for collective solutions. Its approach fosters consensus building and collective action on vital issues such as economic development, infrastructure, transportation, and education. Analysis and research is provided by the organization's research arm, the Silicon Valley Institute for Regional Studies. Research topics focus on economic and community health issues in Silicon Valley and the Greater Bay Area and on broader regional issues. Educated at Harvard and in the field of government, Russell received a PhD in political science from Stanford University, where he currently teaches in the public policy program. You can learn more at jointventure.org. Russell, we're thrilled to have you with us here today. Thanks so much. We know you're very busy, and we really appreciate you spending some time with us. Please begin your presentation.
Kim, thank you. That was a lovely and gracious introduction. And I want this audience to know that I feel privileged to be speaking to you today. It's an honor to have your invitation. I so much appreciate that each and every one of you are people who have prioritized community and our civic issues. So thank you for that. My job today is to update you on what's happening in Silicon Valley and the Greater Bay Area. There it is. That's what we look at from outer space. Never forget, we are a peninsula with a narrow valley. We're surrounded on three sides by water. We're also ringed by mountains and hills and permanently protected open space. And in this highly constrained geographical setting, we have deposited the world's most prolific and prodigious regional economy. And it continues to grow. Let me bring you up to speed on a couple of things. I want to start first by talking about our employment trends. This is what's been going on in Silicon Valley since the start of the century. We are at about 1.7 million jobs. That's how you should understand us. Our workforce is 1.7 million people, and that number has stayed fixed. You can see it here. When we entered the pandemic in 2019, that's where we were, 1.7 million. And then, of course, we went through the calamity of the pandemic, in which we artificially shuttered the economy. We emerged out of it, and we are now at the same level of employment that we are when we began. And we've been sitting there on that plateau now for 3 consecutive years. So that's how you should think about us. This gives you the long-term trends. What I want you to remember is that we experienced that epic recession back in 2008, 2009. We succumbed, so did every region, but we were the first to emerge out of it. And then we mounted a 9-year run of continuous growth and economic expansion that was ended only artificially by the pandemic. And then the pandemic itself actually turned out to be a bonanza for Silicon Valley in terms of growth, creation, economic opportunity. The rest of the world actually suffering, shrinking, Silicon Valley expanding, experiencing an incredible economic boom. And that was our story until the last 3 years, when folks, especially in the tech sector, realized we probably overbuilt during the pandemic. Now it's time to right size and to get a little more lean and efficient as we enter into very uncertain economic conditions. And that's the second thing that I want to point out, is that in 2024, going into 25, we've entered a very tumultuous chapter in our unfolding history. And the tumult is nationwide, it's even international. There have been crazy things going on with markets, with volatility, with a lot of international instability, including wars, invasions. Rates have been hammering everybody. And those were the international conditions when we held our election in 2024. And now we have leadership in the White House that is subjecting the nation's economy to a lot of uncertainty, instability, what I call the whiplash effect of tariffs being on, off, nobody quite sure what's going to be happening from day to day. And that has created an environment of uncertainty and instability. Now, that's having an effect on Silicon Valley. Here, I need to tell you something very clearly, probably disappoint you. I'm not prepared to talk about that. I'm not prepared to talk about what that means for Silicon Valley, what the long-term impact will be. I don't have figures on it. This is something that we're still uncovering and coming to terms with. What we can say is that it's created an environment of complete uncertainty, federal funding being slashed, the funding going into basic research, the funding going into our universities, the funding that many Silicon Valley companies have understood with the government, departments of the government being major clients and customers. All of that has been upended, and we live in an environment of uncertainty. It's having an impact on employment. It's having an impact on funding, especially for nonprofits and other organizations. It's causing companies to become cautious and conservative. Even previously swashbuckling companies have now said that their watchword, their byword is efficiency. And that's what we're experiencing in the Valley right now. And it's going to take some months to uncover what that really means from the standpoint of some of these basic economic indicators. I will be summarizing basically where we are now, and what it's looking like as we enter into this period of instability. Now, before we stop talking about employment and jobs, the narrative out there is that these layoffs are happening, and you've been hearing about that. You've been reading about it in the paper. It's a major story. I would actually like to put it into context. That's the number. Since August of 2022, our companies, and it's mostly tech, it's mostly our tech companies, they've decided to do some downsizing, right sizing, recalibrating is another way that people have referred to it, addressing the over hiring that happened during the pandemic, but also making adjustments to the uncertain national environment. And so as a result of that, this is what we've seen since 22, and it's 66,000 layoffs. You might think that's a big number. It is. I'm not saying it's a small number. However, we need to understand that in context. If you take that number as a percentage of our total tech workforce, it's 3.8%. In other words, it's a small percentage. So a lot of people are talking about the layoffs happening as something terribly wrong with Silicon Valley. And they're saying it's evidence that maybe the sky is falling, that, you know, maybe our long run of prosperity might be coming to an end. It's absolutely not how we should understand Silicon Valley right now. The layoffs are just a fractional percentage. In 2000, when the dot-com thing came crashing down, that was 150,000 layoffs in one year, another 100 in the next year. We were looking at massive percentages of the workforce departing the area. We're not experiencing anything like that in Silicon Valley right now. This is what those layoffs look like as a percentage of the total tech workforce, and or as a percentage of the. I'm sorry, I had these backwards. 3.8 is percentage of the total workforce. Tech itself has taken about a 10, 11% haircut. And that's what we're talking about. We should understand it in that context. This is also important to understand. During that entire time, our unemployment rate has stayed about the same, 3.5%. Folks consider 3.5% to be the equivalent of full employment. In other words, we are such a resilient economy, such a productive economy, that we can withstand 66,000 layoffs and absorb them. They've basically been absorbed back into the economy. And it would appear that they're going into other branches of tech, including artificial intelligence, which is a growth segment for our region. They're going to the startup environment, or they're going to what I call tech adjacent, which is fintech, ag tech, ed tech, healthcare, health tech, those places, and that's how this economy seems to be growing and operating right now. Meanwhile, and this is very important, the companies are downsizing. They're getting more lean. They're getting more efficient. Those heady days when they were just providing all these unbelievable perks and amenities to their workers. All of that seems to be behind us. But what's going on with profitability? Well, this is the market cap. And the market cap, remember, is the value of all of the publicly held companies in Silicon Valley. And look at that. We hit 25 trillion, a record-breaking number. So while all of this is going on, the downsizing, the pandemic, the layoffs, all of this stuff, our companies are more profitable than they've ever been. And so we should also be understanding Silicon Valley in that context. Now, it is true that there's a recovery happening, and that the pandemic seems to be in the rear view mirror. The rear view mirror, that is a true statement. It is not true, however, that the economy is recovering across the board. And I think most of us understand that intuitively. The pandemic has introduced permanent changes, and they're in areas like travel, especially business travel. We've been affected in the transportation sector. A lot of personal services have been affected, and those segments of the economy probably won't ever experience a full recovery. When there are shocks, when there are external forces that do something to the economy, they always create opportunities for some, including new players and new entrants, but they also spell the loss of opportunity or of market space for other players. And that's definitely happening here in Silicon Valley. So we're a region that's driven by tech. Tech is performing as I described. We're also a region that's characterized by these other industries, what we call community infrastructure and services. And for the most part, a lot of them are making a perfectly good comeback, especially things like warehousing, storage, arts, entertainment, even forms of recreation. But the ones that are still experiencing negative growth are the ones you can see here on the chart. It's accommodation, food services, restaurants, transportation, retail. We may be looking at new realities for those segments of our economy. I think a really important question to ask, in addition to talking about how many people are employed, is are we losing companies? Is our region actually hemorrhaging companies? And some people are trying to tell that narrative. We don't see it. The actual number is 4. This is the number of companies that we have lost since the pandemic set in. And I'm here to tell you, as a social scientist, that 4 is a very small number. Any region would be happy with that number. These, by the way, are the companies that have left since the pandemic. And as you look into their individual stories, it's pretty clear that they were leaving for a variety of reasons, not necessarily connected to California or the Bay Area and the circumstances here. They had more to do with other things, personal pique, idiosyncrasies, political views, things of that nature. And what's equally important to point out is that um, uh, take a company like Tesla, which is now headquartered in Texas. The only thing that left the region was the headquarters. Everything else stayed here. And in fact, Tesla expanded their footprint in Silicon Valley, built bigger facilities, including research and office facilities and manufacturing. All of those things expanded in Silicon Valley since the departure of the headquarters. That's also been the case with Oracle. Oracle left everything behind, even though the headquarters went to Texas. So I think we have to understand it in that context too. But here's something that's important for us to understand. Our Silicon Valley tech companies that are driving this economy are local entities. This is true, headquartered here, and they have a Bay Area workforce. But never forget, they also have a workforce outside the Bay Area. They have a national workforce, and they have a global workforce. Now, the Bay Area workforce is growing, growth positive, 27% since the pandemic. The national workforce is also growing, and it's growing at a faster rate. In other words, our tech companies are adding people outside the region at a faster rate than they're adding people inside the region. And then that is also true globally. Globally, our companies are growing at a rate of 66%. If you think about it for very long, it makes sense. Silicon Valley, a very high cost region, and housing out of reach. Employers used to be taking an approach where they wanted to address the housing issues head on, be a part of the solution. More lately, especially with the invention of these tools that make it possible for you to work remotely, our companies are saying, gee, well, it makes more sense for us to add to the workforce in all of these other places where we are also operating. And so that's an important trend for us to understand about Silicon Valley. Now, this is a chart that we put together that is actually tracking three things at once. And it's asking the question, is Silicon Valley still a technology leader? And what it's measuring is the total number of jobs in the tech sector. That's what you can, the size of the bubble is the total number of tech jobs. And then the horizontal axis is the growth rate. It's the growth rate over the last 5 years of tech jobs. And then the vertical axis is the share of the economy that's accounted for by tech jobs. So where you want to be on this chart is the biggest bubble, and you want to be up and to the right. And sure enough, that's where we are. That's where we continue to be, despite all of these various things that we've been describing. So I think that's how we should understand Silicon Valley. But let me also talk about one other aspect of our local economy. We're a technology economy, we're an innovation economy. That's how we grow, that's how we thrive. So the major question that any of us should be asking is, well, are we still innovative? Are we still inventing things in Silicon Valley? Is that advantage shifting to other places? And so here, I just want you to know that we're still recording the highest number of patents anywhere in the entire country. And last year was the highest number that we have ever recorded. Quite remarkable. 23,000 is the raw number. Venture capital continues to be amazingly robust. In the year 2021, you can see there that we had this unbelievable year in the height of the pandemic. Incredible. I actually think that year was anomalous and characterized by a lot of fear of missing out, a rush to invest in case you're missing some opportunity. If you took that year out of the model, you would still see Silicon Valley growing in terms of venture capital. And that continues to be the case, and the venture capital spending and investing is evenly split between San Francisco and Silicon Valley down here in the south part of the region. So that's an important story. From a VC standpoint, we continue to be hawked. We also continue to command the highest shares of venture capital. 52% of the nation's venture capital dollars are here. 81% of California's. A lot of the venture capital has gone into mega deals, and this is a very important trend. I won't stop to talk about it, but understand 20 years ago, venture capitalists would make hundreds of small deals, and they would spread the venture capital more evenly over our large landscape. Today, most of the venture capital is going into mega deals. Those are deals that are more than $100 million, and there are fewer of them. And so that's something that's also important to understand about the evolution of our economy. We continue to grow the number of startups. They are growing. Although an interesting trend, there are more startups in San Francisco. And you've been hearing this narrative that San Francisco is under duress or badly sick or ailing. Not true from the standpoint of startup activity. There are more startups in San Francisco than there are in Silicon Valley down here in the south part of the Bay right now. And the funding going into those startups is robust. And you should see that startup activity is driving our employment figures. There's a close to a 10% growth rate in the startups overall. You should also understand this about our economy. We have the highest number of unicorns and decacorns. Those are privately held companies, not yet public, but they're valued at more than $1 billion, or in the case of decacorns, $10 billion. And there are more of those here than any other part of the world by far. So that too is a really striking feature of our region. Now, before we move on from tech, I want to close with this. Artificial intelligence is the thing that everybody's talking about, wondering about. Is that the next big wave? We think that it is. If it is the next big wave, will Silicon Valley continue to be a national and a global leader? And all of the early indications are that we will be. So despite downturns, despite layoffs, despite all of the national tumult, if artificial intelligence is your indicator, well, then here's Silicon Valley outperforming every other place. This is the amount of venture capital going into AI companies, and you can see that it's just growing exponentially. This is our share of all of the investment that's going into artificial intelligence across the country. 80% of it is coming to Silicon Valley companies. That's an extraordinary figure. This is a chart that's showing you the intensity of AI in terms of job intensity, in terms of early adoption, in terms of federal research and contracting. And by all of these indicators, again, you can see that the Bay Area is the largest compared to any of its peers across the nation. And then, there's these other miscellaneous indicators, the patent activity. Don't forget that in addition to venture funding, there's institutional investing. And these are from large institutions, the Googles and the Metas of the world, Apple. They too are investing in AI at rates that are higher than any other part of the country. So if AI is your indicator, then it's a pretty robust picture. Now, there's this very interesting thing that happened at the height of the pandemic. It's interesting to me because we already had the tools. We had them for a decade or more. It was already possible to hold video conferences. It was already possible to build and utilize platforms that made communication and information sharing, including working documents. We had all of that technology 10 years before the pandemic, but we weren't leveraging it until the sheltering orders. And then Silicon Valley not only adopted it, but embraced it. And so a question on everybody's mind is, what is that doing? Have we become a work from home economy? The answer is pretty much. This is one key ramification, which is to say that we have acres and acres of empty office space. Here's what that looks like since the pandemic across the various types: office, industrial, R&D, and lab space. And the vacancy rates have shot up and are not recovering. These are the very latest figures. You've got downtown. This is showing you commercial, specifically office, and downtown San Jose is about 30% vacant. Oakland is around 26%. San Francisco is around 29% vacant. Those numbers aren't recovering quickly. They may recover over a long period of time, but the conversations now are, what should we do with this space instead? Can they be converted to other uses, including entertainment, family activity, and housing? And that's been the major question. Can some of these spaces be converted to dense forms of housing in these downtown environments? Meanwhile, we love working from home. When the pandemic set in, nearly half the work of our workforce converted over to working from home. And 4 years later, we were still doing it at the highest rates in the country. This is what it looks like when we compare ourselves. The very highest work from home rates nationwide. This is comparing ourselves to our major peers. And so I think that we should understand remote work as a new part of our reality, not a passing fad, something that will continue to characterize Silicon Valley's economy. And so the ramifications for commercial real estate are there, and we are going to have to make interesting adjustments and interesting conversions. Okay, in my remaining time, I want to shift gears, and I just wanted to talk about people. We've been talking about economy. We've been talking about macro trends. Let's talk about the people in Silicon Valley and how they're doing and how life is going in the world's most prodigious regional economy. I'll start by telling you what you probably already understand, at least intuitively. We used to be a majority white population, and that is no longer true. We are not a majority population. There is no single majority. The largest slice of our pie is Asian. 37% are Asian. The next largest slice would be white, non-Hispanic, and then our next biggest slice is Hispanic or Latino. So that's what we look like from an ethnicity standpoint. This is the percentage of our population that was foreign born, and we can update that chart. This is 2023, but it's only grown. We're at about 43% of our population born outside of the United States. That leads the entire nation. The national average 14%. So we're a highly diverse region. This is the share of our population that speak a language other than English, and they speak it exclusively at home. And that share is 53%. Again, off the charts. We're the nation's and one of the world's most highly diverse populations. Now, immigration status is a very hot topic, as you know, and a highly charged one. I just thought, for the sake of interest and information, we should show you what that looks like in Silicon Valley. 52% of our population are naturalized citizens. 30% of our population are lawful permanent residents, and then 18% of our population are undocumented. That's what it looks like here. I'll blow through these charts really fast, just because I think this is fascinating. We should understand it if we don't already feel it. I just told you that we're the nation's most diverse region. This is true. However, we are not choosing to live in diverse neighborhoods. And that's also very telling. That tells us something important. This is what we looked like in 1980. And if you are green on this chart, it means that your neighborhood is heterogeneous. In other words, your neighborhood is very diverse, and there's a high likelihood that your neighbor doesn't look just like you. And that's what we looked like in 1980. If you're red on this chart, it means that your neighborhoods are homogeneous. It's a high likelihood that your neighbors look just like you. So here's what's happened. That's what we looked like in 1990. That's what we looked like in 2000. Lots of red on the map. And by 2010, that's what we looked like right there. We're mostly red. We're not very much green in terms of the diversity of our neighborhoods. We don't have the 2020 chart yet. The census hasn't released it, but those trends have only intensified. So that's interesting. I want to tell you a few things about housing. A lot of this will be just telling you what you already know. We live in the most expensive place in the nation, and that hasn't changed. The pandemic hasn't changed it. Our employment trends, none of those things have changed it. Here's what our median home sale prices look like across the major Bay Area counties. And in San Mateo County, the median home sale price is 2.4 million. Remember, that means half the homes sold, or more than that amount, half or less than that amount. And in Santa Clara County, it's 2.1 million. $2.1 million. That's the median sale price. That's extraordinary. And I'll just say that's only one indicator. There are many indicators. Here's another indicator of measuring what it's like to live here. This is showing you the median apartment rental rates. And your takeaway is that San Francisco and San Jose are the highest in the country, followed by Santa Cruz, and then the rest of our peers evenly distributed. It's hard to see on this chart. I apologize for that. But the national average is $1.73 per square foot for renters, but we're more than triple that in the Bay Area. This is showing what our average monthly apartment rental rates look like when we compare ourselves to the other places across the country. And in terms of apartment renters, we're only behind New York. This is what our monthly housing costs look like. And this is, amalgamated all forms of housing. And again, you can see that San Jose, the metropolitan statistical area at the top of this chart, followed by San Francisco, Oakland, and then followed by other California destinations. So look at the United States average. It's $1,100. And it's more than double that here in the Bay Area. These are the changes in median home sale prices. We thought that maybe with all of these conditions going on that we would see some tempering, but in fact it's not happening. Median home sale prices continue to go up. In the case of our county right here where we sit, they've gone up by 17%. Over the past 18 months. Here's a chart that's tricky to understand. So let me just summarize it for you. What we're trying to figure out here is how much income you would have to earn to be able to qualify for financing for the median priced home. And that figure today is $370,000. That needs to be your average, your annual income. So that's the required income, and that figure has grown by more than 50% over the past 5 years. So that's what we need to understand about housing in the Bay Area. We talk about how it's expensive. We really mean that. It's expensive. It's more expensive than any other place, and it's out of reach for most people. Most people can't contemplate becoming homeowners in our region. Housing burden, that's a technical term. You probably know that. It means that you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, and it's not recommended that you spend more than 30%. But in our region, most people are doing that. They're spending approaching 50% or more of their income on housing. This chart shows you that across the nation, California has the most households that are cost burdened. We're the nation's leader, and it's not even close. And Silicon Valley is what's driving that. So the real question is: are we doing anything about that? Are we building more housing? Are we permitting new housing? Are we zoning for more housing? And this is a chart that's showing you how we did against the state mandates. I probably don't have to explain this to this group, but the state hands down mandate to every community, and we're given a quota. We're given a target of the number of units that we're supposed to approve, and those units fall across all of these income categories: low income, very low income, moderate, and above moderate income. Now, this is how we did against those mandates in the last cycle. What you can see is that we only fulfilled about a third of the mandate in the category, in the very low income category. We only fulfilled about half of the mandate in the low income category, and same with the moderate income category. But in the luxury housing category, we blew past the target by 200%. So what we figured out how to do in Silicon Valley is to build luxury homes, but we aren't building and permitting homes that would be affordable to the rest of the people. And so as a result, we have a precipitous rise of homeless, unhoused population at among the highest rates in the nation. I want to stress this is not a difficulty that is unique to the Bay Area. There is homelessness across the nation and in all of our peer regions, but we are growing at more precipitous rates. And I want to connect the dots. That's because we have the highest housing prices. There are also other factors in play, but the major one is that the housing is just out of reach. We don't build more. We don't have units that are affordable. That's the raw number, by the way, 12,000 people who are unhoused in our region. Okay, I'm just very quickly going to cover one final category, which is that you should also know that we have the nation's highest earners by any number of indicators. Silicon Valley continues to be a place where you can pursue a path to tremendous prosperity. That's absolutely true. But we also have the highest income gaps. And I'll close on this so that I'm leaving enough time for questions. Here's what our income gaps look like. This is the Gini coefficient. If you're 100 on the Gini coefficient, that means that one person is holding all of the wealth. And if you are 0 on the Gini coefficient, it means that all of the people are holding all of the wealth equally. By the way, if we were 0, if Silicon Valley were 0 on the Gini scale, every household would have $1 million. It gives you some sense of how successful and how prosperous our region has become. Also, if you're interested, the US right now is at about 55 on the Gini scale. Where is Silicon Valley? In 1990, you can see that we were low on the scale. We were a middle-class town. People were just, regular folks living in tract housing and bringing home their middle-income salary. So there we were, about 37 on the Gini. By 2023, look at us. We are now approaching. We have now exceeded 80 on the Gini scale, and most people will tell you that. I'm talking about economists and people that study societies from a developmental standpoint. They'll tell you that these are the conditions for rioting, for blood in the streets, for instability. That's also one way that we should probably understand Silicon Valley. Okay, I'll just end with this one. This puts it in plain English for you. Households in the top 10% in Silicon Valley hold 71% of the wealth, whereas the bottom half of our population collectively are holding only 1% of the wealth in Silicon Valley. So that is also the type of place where we're living. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kim, for questions if there happen to be any.
Well, Russell, thank you very much for that extremely informative presentation. Really appreciate it. Lots of insights and valuable information there. I have just a few questions, and then we'll open them up for questions from our attendees today. First, what do you see as the most promising solutions to our region's housing problems?
Um, I'll just give you a flip answer. I'm sorry, but it's the best I have. We just have to build more. We have to build more housing. And I mean, it's a supply and demand problem. That's what it is. You saw the chart. I showed you all of that economic growth. I showed you the employment growth over a 10-year period going into the pandemic. We added 850,000 jobs. And that's a city the size of San Francisco. That's how many jobs we created in that decade. During that same decade, we only approved 300,000 new units. So the mismatch is about 5 to 1. That's the problem here. That's your problem. So if you're going to fix that, we have to add more housing or wait for the market correction, which might be happening. Remember the chart I showed you about how tech employers are actually adding more jobs outside the region now than they are inside the region. And so that's what I call the market solution. It's going to be one or the other. Either we build enough housing or we'll see that there will be a population drain. So how do you do that? It takes courage on the part of our elected officials to stare down the NIMBY forces in the council chambers, and then we have to figure out how to build units at lower costs. That's that's the thing. It's sort of a flip answer, Kim, but this is a really hard problem.
I was hoping you had some silver bullet that you'd
No,
identified.
haven't found it. If it was easy, we would have done it by now. I'll tell you that.
Yep. Yep. Good. Um, I know you recently published a blog on this, but what continuing and longer term impacts do you think the recent pandemic is having or may have on Silicon Valley?
For the most part, I feel like we've recovered, and we recovered pretty quickly. And again, I want to stress the pandemic wasn't a crisis for this region. It was a bonanza for this region. It was really quite something. However, there are some places where we're not recovering. One I mentioned, which is there's some sectors of the economy that may never recover. And that includes travel, business travel, and conference and events and things like that. So that's one thing. Another thing where we're still not quite recovered is the educational attainment of our kids. High school scores, the standardized testing that we do, those indicators are down. We really did lose a step there while our kids were doing school from home. And another telling indicator is what do you call it when kids don't go to school? Truancy. There's a technical term for it. But long extended periods of absence, that's also happening. Then our graduation rates are also down. So the economy recovering, but some other indicators, we've got some work to do.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for the wonderful presentation, the insights, and for all the valuable work you and your team do. It's very helpful. I
Thank you.
look
Thank
forward to the index every year. Now going to open it up for questions from attendees. Please raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you. And remember, one question per person and no speeches, please. Jim Fenton, you have your hand up. Please unmute.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Russell. You were mentioning that the travel sector not recovering so much. Um, there's an organization I'm involved with that's right now struggling whether to hold an upcoming meeting in San Francisco due to immigration issues. They serve a worldwide audience and not sure that they can do that in the current environment. I wonder if you're seeing that elsewhere. Are Should we expect further impacts on travel and meetings due to the current political environment?
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. We're seeing that. I think we're seeing that across the nation. I think that's part of the uncertainty that has been introduced by the current administration. I think those trends will intensify. And so, yeah, it's yet another reason why it's going to be difficult for the travel industry. Recreational travel is up. People are impatient to do that. There's a lot of pent up demand for that. But business travel and business events and the conferences that are associated with that, I don't see those recovering anytime soon.
Thank you. Claire, you have your hand up. Please unmute.
So my question has to do because one of my organizations that I belong to is the American Association of University Women, and one of our big issues is the number of women that are working versus the number of men. And although your data was really terrific, I mean, it was really interesting to read this. You didn't quite talk about that, although you could sort of figure some out. Do you have any information about how women in tech industries, for instance, versus men are being able to come back from that?
Yep. Yeah, we do. We have lots of good information on that, and so I would actually, before I answer your question, I want to share my screen really quickly one more time, and I want to refer you to our website, and that's it right there, jointventure.org. And if you go there, you can sign up, and I hope every one of you will do that today. I hope to do it right now. Just sign up, and we will send you our reports. We'll send you links to the Silicon Valley Index, and we will also link you to this website that we maintain. This is the region's dashboard. It's called SiliconValleyIndicators.org, and you can go to this dashboard and you can pull down all kinds of data, including all the data I shared today, and including information about women in the economy and women in the workforce. So again, that's SiliconValleyIndicators.org. Now I'll stop sharing. And back to your question. There are some very concerning trends. One is the underrepresentation of women in tech generally, and there have been longstanding pipeline issues there. The underrepresentation of women in the startup environment is also a protracted trend. But then a third that's very concerning is the pay differential. And we don't know how to explain it. We only have theories. We don't have science to explain it. But women performing the same functions as their male counterparts are paid less. And it's about a 25% differential. So there are some imbalances in Silicon Valley's workforce with respect to women, and it's an area where we have work to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Krista, you have your hand up. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, Russell. Thanks so much. This has been super interesting.
Thank you.
So I have twin daughters that I graduated in Boston last weekend. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the tie-ins that I feel is going to impact Silicon Valley, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is one daughter was at BU, so super international program. She was IR, and all of her friend group and students there are all, figuring out, like, none of them can go home because they know that they're not going to get back in, and there's just this super interesting level of conversation and anxiety where they pivoted towards no longer feeling like they're going to look for work visas here, or the ability to be sponsored by employers here. And here we are on this other coast, but I know from having lived here so long, just the sheer volume of talent that we've been able to garner from educating international students and then keeping them. So I'm wondering if you have data around that.
We have a lot of data on that. It's amazing. To this day, fully 70% of startup founders and people in filling technical roles are foreign born. We showed you the chart where it's 41% of the population, but in the workforce, it's more like 60-70% are foreign born, doing these amazing things, making those electrons dance, founding the companies. People forget this. Silicon Valley is not a California phenomenon. It's an international phenomenon. It happened because the best and the brightest came from all over the world, and that continues to be the case.
Great. Time for last two questions here. Joe, you first, and then Jennifer. Please unmute, Joe.
Yeah, hi, Russell. Thank you very much for the informative presentation. The narrative on the national news is that California's taxes and regulations are like a ball and chain on every business in the state, as
Yep.
well as forcing a lot of businesses to leave
Yep.
and go into these wonderful
Yep.
places like Texas. Do you believe the companies here are feeling that, and
Yep. Yep.
is joint venture trying to address this at the state level?
Well, uh, let me tell you that the narrative is false. What is true is that we have a high income tax, and we do tax all forms of income, including capital gains. So very wealthy people in California are taxed at a pretty high rate, and as a result, some wealthy people are leaving the state. That's happening. But then there's the taxes on corporations, businesses, and their earnings. And when you look at us in comparison to all the other 50 states, we're not high, we're not low, we're right in the middle. That's the actual truth. Those are the facts. So that's probably how we should understand California. Are we doing anything about it? No. Joint Ventures, a think tank. People who are working on those issues are created to do that for that purpose. They're in associations and organizations. Our job is just to put the data in front of people.
Which is so scary.
Thank you. Jennifer, your question? Thank you.
Sure. Great report and some very
Thank you.
fascinating pieces I haven't seen before. I'm most curious about the Gini coefficient, and just curious, like from your perspective, what programs are in place to work on this that you've seen as most effective? And also, what should we start to do around
Yep.
this? Because I do believe that, like
Yep.
you were saying, that there's high potential for people to get pretty upset in this community as this continues to go up. So just curious about programs.
I'm going to dodge your question, but here's why. Here's why. I'm a regionalist. It's my job to study the region and to talk about all of the things that are within the purview of this region. And the question that you're asking is not a regional question. It has regional results, regional impact, but you're asking a profound ideological question. In other words, you're asking the question that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are debating. That's the question that you're asking. What we're experiencing are the effects of capitalism, and the question you're asking is, should we implement another model or do something to the capitalist model? But this is where capitalism takes us. It takes us to this, and so if that's going to be changed, the way you change that is through massive shifts, the kind that throw countries into tumult over ideologies. I think that really is the question you're asking, and it's premier question of our time. That's my take.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know some of you may need to leave at 9:30, but before you go, a few quick announcements. Our next meeting will be on Friday, June 13th, 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Please join us for a discussion entitled Community Engagement Plan for Downtown Park with Parking with Anthony Carnesecca, Assistant to the Los Altos City Manager. Should be a great discussion. Please support Los Altos Community Coalition by going to our YouTube channel and clicking on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. A link to the YouTube channel is posted in chat for your convenience. If you'd like to be added to the Community Coalition mailing list, please send an email to info@losaltoscommunitycoalition.org. This email is posted in chat for your convenience. And a big thank you to the Los Altos Mountain View Community Foundation for providing Coalition with financial and in-kind support. Once again, Russ, thank you so much for the great discussion today. Extremely informative. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully next year when the new index is out, and seeing all of you who can make it next for our next program, June 13th. Have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody.